All right, what is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video, another NBA off-season video. It happened. It finally happened. You can see in front of you, Giannis Antetokounmpo has been traded from the Milwaukee Bucks to the Miami Heat. This is going to be hopefully a short just reaction to the night of. Literally, this happened 40 minutes ago or so. I just want to talk about my thoughts, my opinions, teams that missed out, obviously the details of the trade, and give my reaction. So if you like what I have to say, like the video. If you have any opinions, comment it down below. And if you just like the vibes, consider subscribing. This is the NBA offseason, man. Technically the day of the draft, we get a late night sneak in trade that we've all been waiting for, but maybe we thought it would be during the draft or right before the draft. No, they decided to drop this news right at the beginning of today, which is the 23rd, and at the end, I guess, of the 22nd of June. So let's get into the details. I don't know if I did my intro. Did I do my intro? Like the video, subscribe, all that good stuff. Let's get into it, man. This is just going to be my reactions and stuff, and we'll do a more detailed one after the draft and everything. But the trade this is what you're all here for. The trade this is from ESPN Shams Charania. The Milwaukee Bucks are trading franchise icon, that's literally a great way to put it, franchise icon Giannis Antetokounmpo and Bobby Portis to the Miami Heat for Tyler Hero, Kel'el Ware, Jaime Jaquez, and Kasparas Jakuchones. And let's get the picks right here. The Heat are also sending the Milwaukee Bucks an unprotected first round in 2031 and 2033, along with number 13 pick pick swap in 2030 and a 2033 second rounder, according to sources. So a whole bunch of picks, 2 second rounders, and essentially 2 first rounders and a pick swap. What do I have to say? I'm not going to say anything new or revolutionary about this. This has been talked about since last offseason and maybe even the offseason before that. It feels like this has been going on for many years now at this point. Giannis not wanting to go. Giannis cryptically saying like he doesn't want to leave Milwaukee, but he just wants to leave the Bucks. And even before that, he said previously that if the Bucks can't build a contender around him, then he just has to go. Not in those exact words, but something along those lines. And even today, literally, of this morning, when was this? This was yesterday at 6 p.m. Yeah, around 6 p.m. Giannis tweeted, this is from his official Twitter account, "God trusted you at the beginning, and I will continue to trust you throughout," with a picture of himself in a Bucks jersey, black and white, very dramatic. And people theorized that the trade was going to happen today, and those people were right. People like Chris Haynes and the NBA media thought it was a done deal that he was going to Boston. That did not come together as they thought it might have, and he lands in Miami. Now, I have lots of thoughts about Miami and Pat Riley. Pat Riley, been there for a very long time. Before this, probably more known as not like a guy who got LeBron way back in the day, literally 10 plus years ago, but a guy who swung on a lot of situations like this where players were unhappy, whether it be, off the top of my head, James Harden, Damian Lillard, Paul George, LeBron again, Donovan Mitchell. The list goes on. He swung on a bunch of guys that the Heat did not end up getting. And finally, probably they get the biggest fish of them all. This is what they were waiting for. This is what Pat Riley sat in press conferences about, end of year press conferences, saying, we're not going to trade certain guys unless something comes along that's really, really good. And finally, after years of waiting, it feels like they finally get their guy. They do have to give up, um, not Mr. 83 points in a single game, Bam Adebayo, but they do give up Tyler Hero, who has been an all star. However, flaky or whatever you think the all star appearance was for him, he is an all star. He's a semi accomplished player. You get a young big in Kalel Ware, who I really like, who I hope doesn't rot in Milwaukee. I think Coach Taylor Jenkins will use him appropriately. You get Jaime Jaquez, you get just Kasparis Jakuchonis, who is on a pretty sizable deal, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly. You had to take on that money in order to make this deal work. And let's talk about Tyler Hero, Keloware, Ware, and the rest of the guys going to Milwaukee, and then we'll obviously move to the more obvious Giannis going to the Miami Heat. I think this is good for Tyler. He is a Wisconsin native. Um, I guess I don't want to say born in Milwaukee, but grew up in the Milwaukee area, the Wisconsin area. And I guess this is somewhat of a homecoming for him, and he gets to be in a situation where he has been injured the last couple years. He has been a little banged up. He has been a little banged up, and he hasn't been as healthy as you would like him to have been. This, however, with Kalel with Jaime Jaquez, who is still as a we don't know Jaime's ceiling necessarily. I think his ceiling is a very good role player, but you never know. Um, this provides a team along with what they they have as well. In Miles Turner, we'll see if he gets moved. He's on a very big deal. I'm not sure they want to be paying him that much if they're going to be bad. But with the new draft system coming into play next year, which I have yet to talk about, it's the 1, 2, 3 draft odds where you can't be the worst team in the league, but you don't want to be really good. You want to be somewhere in the middle. You want to be around, let's see, like maybe like 9 to 12, I would say, bad, in your conference, or not just in your conference, but in the league. Um, well, I guess 9 to 12 doesn't work, but you catch my drift. In the sort of bottom middle of the pack, and I feel like these guys could win you a couple games under Coach Taylor Jenkins, who is known as a developmental guy, but also a guy who is a really good playoff coach. I think did an amazing job with the Grizzlies, making that young Grizzlies team that it was at the time. Jaren Jackson Jr., Desmond Bain, Dylan Brooks, John Morant, really good. And they made a couple play-in appearances. Obviously, as they got to the later stages of that era, they were a consistent playoff team. And now I think he can do the same with some of these pieces in Milwaukee. Ware, I really like. I think, I don't want to say has untapped potential, but I think he's pretty standard. He's a pretty standard big run, jump, dunk. He has been working on his 3-point shot. Um, there is the thought of they still have, at least as of recording of this video. Let me click on their thing here. Actually, let me turn off my volume so you guys don't get blasted by an ad here on my end. As of right now, so they have all these names: Tyler, Kalel, Jaime, Kasparis Jakuchones. They have Usman Dang. They have AJ Green. They have they already added these guys to the roster. Damn. Pete Nance. They have Kevin Porter Jr. They have Ryan Rollins. I think a backcourt of Ryan Rollins and Tyler Hero is supremely interesting to me. It's a very young backcourt and a very interesting backcourt in the sense of Ryan Rollins is a get downhill, um, crash to the basket sort of guy, and Tyler Hero is a mid range guy, a 3-point guy. Um, I think they can play off each other well. It remains to be seen what this roster is going to look like in full. Obviously, the trade just happened tonight, so we don't know. Maybe they get some more pieces when they trade Miles Turner. Miles Turner might be viewed as a negative asset, but maybe you can still get some stuff for him. And yeah, I think this is the best case scenario for the Milwaukee Bucks. I think in not getting Jaylen Brown and whether it was Hugo Gonzalez or whatever, and 2 picks from the Celtics, it really capped out your sort of, I'll use the word goodness, but like how bad you would want to be in a good way, and would really cap you out there. Getting this haul of young guys makes sure that you have some talent on the back end that maybe could improve, and you have some good play right now talent. And not saying Jaylen Brown wouldn't be a good play right now talent, but Jaylen Brown might be too good. And that's a compliment to Jaylen Brown, where he might not um, have been what the Bucks wanted because he would have made them too good. You know, you don't want to be that good. You just want to be good enough. And yeah, I think that's it for Milwaukee. Let's talk about Miami, and then we'll talk about the teams that missed out on Giannis here. Now, the Miami Heat last year were 43-39. They were banged up pretty much all of the year, all of last year. They had some really interesting moments at the beginning of the season. I don't know if you guys remember this, but where they were running some really interesting offensive stuff. They have, I think, yeah, the best coach in the NBA, the best X's and O's guy in the NBA, Eric Spoelstra, who, if anybody can unlock Giannis even further in this later stage of his career, it'd be Eric Spoelstra. Um, to get to the Miami Heat stuff with the roster, it's very, once you get outside of, was it Bam, Giannis, um, Davion Mitchell, Norman Powell, and Andrew Wiggins, their core five essentially at this point now, it gets pretty, we'll say interesting. We'll go down the list here. Simone Fontecchio, Myron Gardner, um, Keyshawn Johnson, Trevor Keels. I've never even heard of that guy. I've seen him. I didn't know that was his name though. Pele Larson. Obviously, that Bobby Portis now. Who knows if he'll get moved post this trade, maybe rerouted. Jameer Young, Drew Smith. Uh, they're going to need to fill out this roster, and I think you can. I think you can. We just saw, was it AJ? No, not AJ. Who just got traded from the Thunder? Aaron Wiggins. You just saw Aaron Wiggins go to the Atlanta Hawks. That's a sort of a player that is plug and play, and I think that's what the Miami Heat are going to try to get in the later stages of this offseason and then the free agency is try to get guys who are plug and play. I don't want to say you don't have to put a lot around Giannis, but it's very simple to put stuff around Giannis. It's shooters, it's defenders, it's guys who make his life easier. It's going to be interesting to see Bam and Giannis in the front court as a center and power forward duo. I don't know if Giannis is going to play the four or if Bam is going to play the four. Bam doesn't really shoot the three. He had, again, we talk about the 83-point game. He shot the three ball a lot in that game, but that's not really who he is. It should be interesting because Giannis hasn't really played with a big like Bam since like, but by like Bam I mean like a guy who really doesn't shoot since like what, Greg Monroe. That's a long time ago. Giannis has developed a bit of a mid-range game that I think is underrated. Does he go to it too much? Yeah, but I think he was just trying stuff out. The Bucks weren't really doing anything, and he was just trying stuff at times. I think Eric Spoelstra, Bam Adebayo, the rest of these guys. I mean, Davion Mitchell's a bit of a shooter. Norman Powell's a shooter. Can Andrew Wiggins be sort of like a Chris Middleton guy when the Bucks won the championship with Giannis and Chris Middleton, that group? Sure. Um, I do like this team at face value, and I think the bench will come. I think when you have a duo like Giannis and Bam, stars want, not stars, but role players want to come play with those guys. Obviously, Pat Riley, now that he's emptied the treasure trove of picks and stuff and players that he had, might have to work around the edges, might have to wait till um, waivers come along, all that stuff. I don't want to get too deep into it because it is quite late and I don't want to say something incorrect, but um, this is a huge moment. In all seriousness, this is a very huge moment. The Bucks trading their franchise cornerstone. Giannis has been, some would argue, the best Milwaukee Buck, but definitely the best Milwaukee Buck of the 2000s, point blank period. Some would argue he's the best Milwaukee Buck of all time. And trading a guy like that's hard to do because his value can be so, I won't say overrated, but overrated for their individual franchise. But getting rid of him, moving on from this era, can be quite emotional. And he's 31. He's on the other side of 30. How many good years does Giannis have left? I don't want to sound blunt and sound like what's the word unprofessional, but big men after they get past 30, their years are numbered. Um, will this roster make his life easier? That remains to be seen. But I think if Giannis can be healthy, and he has been healthy the last couple years, if he can put together 4 more good years, just 4 more years, and they have a 4 year window, so he gets to 35, right? I think that's good value. You're getting a guy who, I mean, I could just read off his resume for you. Let me pull that up, but um, Giannis is really great, and it's gonna be interesting. He spent his whole career with um, Milwaukee, been in that system, been enjoyed and cherished by that, not just the team, but the city of Milwaukee. Um, this was a hard thing to do, but it needed to be done. And the Miami Heat get a 10-time All Star, an NBA champ, a 9-time All NBA, 5-time All Defensive, 2-time MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, Finals MVP, Most Improved Player. That was his first award. Um, All Star Game MVP, Finals MVP, um, and 75th anniversary guy. At 31 years old, probably still at the peak of his powers, and the East just got even scarier. And again, the Miami Heat struck out on a lot of guys. Are any of those guys Giannis? Hell no. And this was the exact move that the Heat needed to revitalize their team, their city. They have so many resources. They strive for such a level of greatness and excellence from all their guys, and everybody is held to the same level, whether it be Giannis or even down to like Myron Gardner and like Keyshawn Johnson. They're all held to the same standard. And Giannis is the type of guy that holds himself to a super super high standard. So him going into that environment will be very cool, and it's gonna be interesting to see how the word gets thrown around, not so much now, but in the past, Heat culture. It gets thrown around. It's gonna be interesting to see Giannis in that um, culture. Giannis joins a group of many many great players to walk through the Miami Heat doors. Dwayne Wade, Shaquille O'Neal, LeBron James, Chris Bosh, Jimmy Butler. Probably Jimmy Butler has been the best Miami Heat player, the most recent best player. He joins that group, and it's gonna be fun. That's the word. I use the word interesting a lot, but this is gonna be fun for Giannis, and I hope he's healthy, and I hope out of the 4 years we get two really good ones. And do I think he can win another MVP? Maybe. Um, it remains to be seen. To talk about the other teams that struck out on Giannis, and then we'll get out of here. Obviously, the other name that was the one out of the two teams, one of those being the Miami Heat, the other one being the Boston Celtics, who didn't get Giannis. This I want to say this is a devastating blow, but this is a very awkward blow. It became very apparent that Brad Stevens, the head of the front office there, a former coach of the Celtics, really wanted Giannis, and it became so real that they just started throwing Jaylen Brown's name out there. This is from Shams Charania himself. The Celtics aggressively pursued Giannis, offering the Milwaukee Bucks a package featuring Finals MVP Jaylen Brown, 2 second-round picks, and it was floated around also as a rumor that Hugo Gonzalez was in this trade too. Um, the Bucks seriously negotiated with the two finalists in recent weeks, and Miami and Boston, which were both on Giannis's list of preferred destinations. Um, this is gonna be very awkward because when you start throwing people's name around in trades, especially in the NBA, it's such a small roster. It's such a tight knit group of guys, and it sort of affects the morale. I don't say the morale, but the morale of the team. And Jaylen Brown's a very intelligent guy. I think he's also very emotionally intelligent. I don't think he'll take this as too much of a slight. I think the stuff like this obviously goes in the back of your mind, and you're always thinking about it. And it's a long summer. There'll be time to forget about this, and there'll be time for the Boston Celtics to pivot and not include Jaylen Brown in any of these trades. And maybe, I think at this point they have to regroup because it came out earlier today that the Celtics took a good look in the mirror. watched the New York Knicks win the championship, and they said to themselves, this is rumors, this is hearsay, that they said to themselves, we aren't good enough. We couldn't beat the Knicks. And I truly believe that as well. You know, that was reported by ESPN's Brian Windhorst. I believe that. I genuinely do. When you see a team like the the Knicks, especially, who are such a deep team and such a, I'll say, overwhelmingly star power driven team, even not just in name but around the margins. And you look at the current Boston Celtics team and the state of Jason Tatum. We don't know where he's going to be going in the next season, but we saw the sample size this year. It wasn't fantastic. It wasn't the Jason Tatum that we're used to seeing. So there might need to be a move that obviously maybe doesn't include Jaylen Brown, and maybe Jaylen Brown doesn't put this stuff in the back of his head, and he thinks, you know what, you guys don't want me anymore. Just get me out of here. And they trade Jaylen Brown anyway down the line. But as of right now, I think the Boston Celtics got a little messy, and I don't think that's very like them. That hasn't been like them over the course of history. I don't think they haven't been very messy. Like the last messiest thing I remember from them that was really, obviously there's the Isaiah Thomas thing, but he was injured, so I understand them trading him. But like this is like on the levels of like when they had who was it? Was it Rick Pitino who was the coach in the early 2000s? Yeah, Rick Pitino. Levels of messy where it's just like it's just gonna be awkward at times. But I think once Jaylen Brown and Joe Mazzulla and Jason Tatum and everybody sits down and Brad Stevens sits down and they regroup and they refocus their efforts and just go for what their goal is, which is a championship, I think they'll be fine. Um, and that's my spiel on them. Now, let's move to the other teams who struck out on Giannis, who obviously, like I had said, the two teams were the Miami Heat and Boston Celtics, but there were other teams floated around dating back to last season. Um, Now the Giannis thing is resolved. Let's go through those teams. The Toronto Raptors was floated around a little bit. I don't think they were serious. That would have been fun though. The Atlanta Hawks at one point. I think that was before the Trae Young stuff was floated around. That could have been very, very intriguing. Um, Chicago was always out there, dating back to even before Giannis wanted out of Milwaukee, just because it was in proxy to Milwaukee. Um, the big one that was last offseason's really big fish was the New York Knicks. The New York Knicks had one interesting thing that I thought almost guaranteed them getting Giannis at one point, which was New York has nonstop flights to Greece, which is where Giannis's family lives now. His wife and his kids live, and his family is very important to him. So I thought that might have played a role. But you know, sometimes the best thing for a team is just stand pat and just use what they have. And for the Knicks, I think it all worked out. Obviously, they won the championship. They didn't need Giannis. They didn't want Giannis after winning the championship, even though that was floated around a little bit. They stood pat, and I commend them for doing that. But now, when they did stand pat, they let him walk to a Eastern Conference rival, and that becomes even more interesting. The New York Knicks and the Heat reignite the, I guess, the long-term rivalry that they've had dating back to years prior. And yeah, let's move on to the West. Obviously, there was the thought of maybe the Oklahoma City Thunder getting Giannis. I thought maybe that would be something that could happen. Obviously, the Oklahoma City Thunder have a plethora of picks. They have players. I thought with the trade that they did earlier, like we talked about, the Aaron Wiggins trade, maybe they were gearing up for a Giannis move, but it didn't seem like they were ever in these conversations seriously. I think it was just an internet thing that was floated around. The Lakers always in that conversation, so the Lakers miss out on a star. The Rockets last off season were in this conversation as well. I like that well enough. I think you can even find videos on this channel where I said I would love Giannis on the Rockets. That was before they traded for Kevin Durant. And the reverse of the Knicks, who stood pat, I feel like the Rockets should have just waited till this offseason, and they probably could have had the best package for Giannis. It just didn't. They jumped too quickly on the KD thing, and at this point, it's obvious. You know, Giannis is better than KD. And Giannis might have been the better fit because there's stuff floating around that the Rockets have Alperen Şengün and Kevin Durant on the block, open for trade discussion. So they might be trying to get out of that business already, and they might have missed out on Giannis because they jumped too early. Um, Minnesota was also sort of in those conversations. I didn't really like that. I didn't understand that because like what Rudy Gobert and Giannis, nah. Nas reading Giannis with Anthony Edwards, nah. Um, the Minnesota Timberwolves did just trade Julius Randle to the Nets, so that was also a breadcrumb that maybe people thought Giannis was going to Minnesota. Didn't happen. And then I guess the last real one that I maybe could have seen was Portland linking back up with Dame after their terrible partnership in Milwaukee. I didn't really feel like that one could have happened, but it felt right. Um, and then these last two sort of like flash in the pans, like maybe long shot. The Golden State Warriors, that could have been fun. That one was linked similarly to the where were they, the Bulls, where it was like Giannis and Steph Curry. Steph Curry and Giannis have a great relationship. That wasn't enough, obviously, and the Golden State Warriors just didn't have the ammo to get it done. And then the last one, I think the originators of like the Giannis sweepstakes was the Dallas Mavericks. And the Dallas Mavericks are in such a weird place right now. They just got their new head coach, Dusty May, uh, NCAA championship winner from last year. Um, that was way back. That was like after before the Dame stuff. So keep in mind that was a long time ago. So I think the Dallas Mavericks just were never in that conversation for real, even though they were the originators of it. So yeah, that's it. Those are all the teams that were really in contention for Giannis dating back. And now that book has been shut, and now this is the NBA, man. We move on to the next star who's going to be disgruntled and won out because this Giannis one has finally ended. And I'm happy it ended. I'm happy this was the resolution. The Bucks seem happy with what they got. Obviously, they did the trade, and the Miami Heat walk out of here real winners and promote themselves, I think, to one of the best 5 teams in the East next year for sure. Because you look at the East is going to be packed next year. It's going to be Detroit, the Celtics, the Knicks, the Raptors, the Hawks, the Magic, the Heat, the Pacers, the Wizards, the Bulls maybe. It's going to be packed next year. And then the Bucks regress to where they were last year and probably right around where they want to be, 32-50. The Bucks want to be a 30 to 40 win team next year. And I think they can get there again. But yeah, all eyes are on Giannis in his new situation. And now that this is resolved, we turn our eyes as NBA fans to the draft and then to free agency, and we see what else can transpire. So yeah, that's it. That's the video. This has been crazy because this Giannis stuff was like the first big trade thing that was floated around constantly throughout my time doing these videos for you guys. And for it to finally be resolved is wild. So thank you guys so much for following along with this. And like I said, all eyes will be on Giannis and the Heat. And then that's later. It's later in the year. And now we turn our eyes to the NBA draft. I will see you guys then to talk about the NBA draft and talk about some more NBA stuff that I teased in this video. So yeah, the end screen should be playing right now. Check out the video on the left. Check out the playlist on the right. If you click my little icon right in the middle of the screen, a little subscribe will pop up, and you can subscribe with ease, like and comment as well. And I will see you guys next time. Cheers.